Hi, I would like to introduce you to Lance. Lance here is one of my math students. He's had some very poor math experiences. He has felt humiliated when he has given wrong answers, when he makes mistakes. He struggles to understand. Lance has a fixed mindset. He believes at this point that he can't do math. It's just impossible for him. And we want Lance and other students like him to have a growth mindset, that they keep going even when the work is hard, that they would be persistent and keep trying. We don't want students to be using tricks as they solve math problems that we learned. For instance, when I was a student, how to carry the one and flipping the second fraction when dividing. Rather, we want our students to develop their own methods to make sense of problems and to connect with each other. The plasticity of the brain is shown to be incredible. We don't even have to be aware of mistakes for those brain sparks to occur. A lot of research has been done saying that anyone can learn math to the highest level. So here's some real ideas to get you started. Joel Bowler has come up with new norms that can be put into a math classroom where we welcome mistakes, we ask questions, we make sense of problems, we make connections to communicate with each other, we value depth over speed, and that math is about learning and not performing. So we want students to welcome mistakes. We want them to have the freedom to make mistakes, that they would keep going, they would learn from them. We would encourage risk-taking for them to get to the bottom of their misunderstandings and so that their brains would continue to grow. Questions are so important in the math classroom. As a teacher, we can write questions on a poster and post it up in the classroom. Model questions to get students going, write one or two on there, and then they can give them time to come up with more questions. Math is about creativity and making sense. Why does that work? Having students build models with math tools like linking cubes and base 10 blocks, bringing in those visual representations, and where they are explaining their thinking. Math is about connections and communicating. New understandings come from connecting ideas, and students are representing math problems in many different forms through words, pictures, graphs, equations, and then they talk over those connections with each other. Have students value depth over speed, giving them the time that they need to think. Time tests have been shown and researched that they cause anxiety in our math students, and we don't want to do that. We want to choose students who are not always raising their hands. Math class is about learning and not performing. We want to give positive and constructive comments and feedback on their assignments, whether it's formative or summative, giving grades for learning, like questions, representing ideas in different ways, and making connections. So here's some true stories from the classroom. As I grade tests, I like to highlight the first mistake that they make on a problem, and then I give those tests back to students where they look and try to find their corrections, the mistakes that they found, and how to correct it. I give them feedback on their tests, and I put the grade in their grade book, not on the test. Giving students rich math tasks, for instance, how is the shape growing? So they have cubes that are in line, and each cube is growing more than the other, and so they color and they share their ideas, they connect the methods, look at how the 10th shape is growing, and they work together to create a poster. Adding decimals with base 10 blocks. I've done this one with students as well. Students build a decimal, they add and remove those base 10 blocks depending on if they're adding or subtracting. They exchange smaller for larger, and this helps them to understand place value. Full body graphing. This was really fun. I created a graph on the floor. I wrote an equation on the board, and the students had to find the slope and the y-intercept, line up on the graph, and then I could change the slope or the y-intercept, and they would have to move accordingly. Brain connections. This was a really fun activity to do at the beginning of the year. I crumpled a picture of a brain, or had students crumple the picture of the brain. They threw it. Then they traced lines representing new connections that they were going to make that year through different math tasks and struggles that they would have. How many sides are painted? In this case, students took a 3 by 3 by 3 sugar cube that they built and then potentially dipped in blue paint. And they were asked a question, how many cubes have no sides painted, 1, 2, or 3 sides? And they created a poster in their groups. Joe Buller says there are 5 C's of math engagement: combining curiosity, making connections, challenge as in challenging tasks, creativity as in creative tasks, and involving collaboration with each other. And so in summary and hope, as teachers, we want to slowly implement new norms and new ideas in our classroom. Pick one thing that you can change right now, whether it's a formative, exit tickets, something with tests, and only changing 10% a year so we don't become overwhelmed. And then back to Lance. There are still good days and bad days, yet I've noticed a lot of growth this year. We did a golfing activity with translation, rotation, and reflection, and he said it was really hard, but he kept at it. He loves these kinds of activities and works really well with others in the classroom.